The Joker has always been more than just a comic book villain. He is a symbol, an enigma, and one of the darkest reflections of human psychology ever created. With Joker, Folie à Deux, 2025, director Todd Phillips continues the unsettling journey that began in 2019's Joker. But this time, the story dives even deeper into the blurred lines between madness, love, and reality itself. To understand this sequel, we need to break down the myths surrounding Joker, the facts hidden in psychology, and the truth behind his connection with Harley Quinn. One of the biggest myths about Joker is that he is a mastermind criminal with carefully crafted schemes. In most Batman adaptations, that's true, but in Todd Phillips's version, Joker is not a criminal genius. He's a man named Arthur Fleck, whose mental illness, social rejection, and tragic circumstances push him into chaos. The myth of Joker as a planner collapses here. The fact is that Arthur is more a product of neglect and broken systems than a calculating villain. Another myth lies in the idea of love. Many fans believe Joker and Harley Quinn share a twisted but genuine romance. But the reality is far darker. Psychologists describe their relationship as one of manipulation and obsession, not love. Harley, in most versions, falls for Joker after treating him as her patient in Arkham Asylum. The myth of true love hides the truth. Theirs is a destructive folie à deux, a French term meaning madness shared by two. This is where the sequel gets its name, and this is the core theme the film explores. The film also questions the myth of what's real in Arthur's world. In the first movie, we saw how unreliable his perspective was. He imagined entire relationships and events. In Joker 2, with the musical elements and Harley Quinn entering his life, the line between hallucination and reality will blur even further. Some fans believe the entire movie could be Arthur's delusion inside Arkham. While that remains a theory, the fact is that Todd Phillips intentionally wants us to question every scene. One fact worth addressing is Joker's connection to music. At first, fans were surprised to learn the sequel would include musical numbers. But this is not a random choice. Studies in psychology show that patients with certain mental conditions experience heightened emotional responses through music. By making the sequel part musical, Phillips is grounding the film in a strange but real psychological phenomenon. What may look like song and dance could actually be Arthur's way of processing trauma. And finally, there's the myth of the Joker as a symbol of rebellion. Many viewers saw him as a hero in the first film, someone who stood against corruption and injustice. But the truth is more uncomfortable. Arthur never intended to start a revolution. He was simply lost in his own pain. The uprising in Gotham was a coincidence of timing, not a plan. In Folie à Deux, this myth will be explored further as Harley Quinn becomes part of his story. She doesn't join a hero, she joins a man consumed by his own demons. As the story of Joker, Folie à Deux unfolds, the spotlight shifts to Harley Quinn, portrayed by Lady Gaga. Her introduction challenges another popular myth, that Harley is simply Joker's sidekick, a character who exists only in his shadow. While this has been true in many comic book adaptations, the reality in psychology is that Folie à Deux describes a shared psychosis where both partners feed into each other's delusions. This means Harley isn't just following Arthur, she is shaping him, too. The film takes this concept seriously, showing her as both victim and enabler. Many fans mythologize Harley Quinn as a playful, quirky anti-hero who stands beside Joker out of pure love. But in truth, her relationship with him has always been rooted in manipulation, obsession, and codependency. In clinical terms, Harley suffers from what some psychologists call trauma bonding, where an individual forms an unhealthy attachment to an abuser. Folie à Deux peels back this myth, forcing audiences to confront how dangerous their so-called love story really is. Another myth surrounding the Joker is that he represents freedom, an escape from society's rules. This is particularly appealing in modern culture, where Joker has been turned into a meme of rebellion. But the truth is more unsettling. Arthur Fleck isn't free. He's trapped in his mind, in his illness, and in his inability to connect with reality. Far from liberation, his path is one of destruction. Harley's arrival doesn't rescue him. Instead, it deepens the spiral. The setting of Arkham Asylum also challenges common myths. Many imagine it as a Gothic prison for the insane, but in reality it reflects deeper truths about mental health institutions of the past. Overcrowding, mistreatment, and experimental therapies were not uncommon. By grounding the story in Arkham, the film reminds us of the harsh history of psychiatric care, where patients were often silenced rather than treated. Harley's transformation from doctor to patient echoes this disturbing reality. One fact the film highlights is how shared delusions work. In psychiatry, Folie à deux can manifest in two ways: a dominant personality imposing their delusion on another, or both creating and reinforcing the fantasy together. With Joker and Harley, we see both. Arthur's delusions pull Harley into his world, but Harley's obsession also validates Arthur's madness, giving it power. This isn't the myth of crazy in love. This is the fact of shared illness. The musical elements of the film also return in this stage, not as entertainment, but as symbols of inner chaos. For Arthur, a song might be an escape from pain. For Harley, a duet could symbolize their shared descent. What appears as a glamorous performance on the surface may in fact be a psychotic break. The myth of musicals as joyful and uplifting is inverted here. The fact is that they are tools of distortion, painting tragedy with the illusion of beauty. And then comes the myth of the hero's journey. In many films, the main character faces obstacles, grows, and emerges stronger. Folie à deux rejects this. Arthur doesn't grow, he unravels. Harley doesn't find freedom, she loses herself. This isn't a story of triumph but of collapse. It's the anti-hero's tale, told not to inspire but to unsettle. As Joker, Folie à deux approaches its final act, the myths surrounding Gotham, Arthur, and Harley converge in one haunting question: what is real, and what is illusion? The film blurs this boundary so deeply that even the audience cannot fully trust what they see. This myth, that films always show us the truth, becomes the ultimate trick. In Joker's world, perception is everything, and reality is negotiable. One of the most enduring myths about the Joker is that he is immortal, not in the literal sense, but as a figure who always finds a way to rise again in every version of Batman's world. While this is true in comic books, the fact within Folie à deux is different. Arthur Fleck is fragile, human, and breakable. His mind is his only weapon, and it is both his strength and his prison. The sequel dismantles the myth of Joker's invincibility, reminding us that beneath the paint is a man who could just as easily collapse as he could rise. Harley Quinn's arc also reaches a devastating truth. For years, the myth of Harley has been that she is empowered by her love for Joker, that her madness gives her freedom. But the fact is that Harley loses herself in Arthur's world. Their Folie à deux isn't liberation, it's entrapment. She isn't finding strength in him, but surrendering her identity. This fact undercuts the romanticized version of Joker and Harley often portrayed in pop culture. The myth of Gotham as a city of endless corruption also gets challenged. While Gotham has always been a symbol of decay, here it becomes a stage for illusion. The riots, the music, the crowds, are they real or part of Arthur's mind? The fact is, we may never know. This deliberate ambiguity forces us to sit in the discomfort of uncertainty, mirroring the unstable perspective of its characters. One striking fact the film emphasizes is the destructive nature of shared delusion. In medical history, Folie à deux cases rarely end well. The individuals involved usually collapse under the weight of their illusions, often with tragic consequences. Arthur and Harley are no exception. Their union is not salvation but acceleration, two fires feeding each other until nothing remains but ash. The musical finale further complicates the myths. What appears to be a grand, sweeping conclusion, Arthur and Harley in perfect harmony, might not exist at all. It could be Arthur's dying fantasy, Harley's fractured perception, or even the collective hallucination of both. The myth of a happy ending is shattered. The fact is that their story was never meant to end in joy, but in chaos. Finally, the greatest myth of Joker, that he is simply a villain, falls apart. Folie à Deux reminds us that Joker is not just a character but a mirror. He reflects our fears of madness, our fascination with rebellion, and our discomfort with truth. The fact is that Arthur Fleck's story forces us to confront how society treats the marginalized, the ill, and the broken. His laughter is not joy but pain, and his story is not about glory but tragedy. As the credits roll, we are left with no clear answers, only questions. Was it real? Was it fantasy? Were Joker and Harley lovers, partners, or simply two broken souls clinging to each other? The myths dissolve, and all that remains are the uncomfortable facts. Madness is not glamorous, rebellion is not freedom, and sometimes the scariest truths are the ones that hide behind a smile. And so, Joker, Folie à Deux closes not as a love story, nor as a tragedy alone, but as a reminder of how fragile the line is between illusion and reality. It is not just a sequel, it is a psychological puzzle, a mirror to society, and a myth unraveled before our eyes.